Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a fun theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. I have to tell you, when an actor decides to become creative and is actually working as a creative on musicals, I get so excited because it means I get to be incredibly theatrical with my lovely friends. And what I can tell you about our guest today is that she's a West End legend. She's a Broadway legend. She has worked everywhere. And not only that, she has written the most incredible blogs. She has written novels and books. And she has now decided to start writing musicals, creating new work and new words for old musicals. And I haven't seen her for ages. And I'm so excited to be talking to her right now. She is Alexandra Silber. Welcome, Al.
Oh my goodness. I feel like this interview is just going to be us hanging out,
It absolutely is. So I'm sorry to everyone already.
Of course. What an honor to be here.
Right now, you literally just said tonight is your open dress rehearsal
Yes.
for your version of Brigadoon, Al Silber's version of Lerner and Lowe's Brigadoon. Tell me how this came about. Tell me all about it.
I cannot believe it. Yes, tonight is our open dress. First time any audience will be there. So, in sort of brief, and it is a little bit how I ended up in the UK/West End. I did my undergraduate degree at what's now called the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. And if you can believe it, I'm on the International Advisory Board for the school as well. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's definitely at least a play about what it's like to be on a board.
Oh, yes, I can agree with you there.
Yeah. But what I'll say is that the specificity of the Scottish culture, I got so much more than just an acting education there. Not to sort of like launch in hot, but the reason I went was after a very, very long battle with cancer. My father died a few weeks into my first year of uni, and I decided to take that year off and kind of regroup. And as a response to that event, I moved to Scotland. And what's interesting, and I think in every page of this adaptation, was what I found there, and what greeted me when I arrived was so unsentimental, but so unbelievably supportive. I was offered this Scottish philosophy that joy and sorrow are not adversaries, but neighbors, and that these feelings and their intensity are to be lived with and endured side by side, in and out, even sometimes minute to minute. Scotland didn't rush my healing. It offered me community and poetry and music and tradition, and I think it transformed my life and set me up to bear existence. So I think in a lot of ways I've always felt that the place was incredibly and extraordinarily special to me. And I love musicals so much. Dear listeners, we were talking about this before we pressed record. We were both nerding out, and then both of us going, we're not recording this!
We missed so many gems. Sorry.
I love musicals, and I felt like this was an opportunity to serve the art form. I always wished to be in service, and I wanted to be in service to the art form, and I felt that this is a musical that has been declared as problematic, and predominantly for the reasons of the way women are portrayed and regarded, and for the lack of authentic Scottishness in it. And I thought, I feel uniquely suited to address those things.
Yeah.
And almost like serve as a translator to American audiences from American creators. And so it felt like a calling. And I'm thrilled to sort of say, oh my goodness, tonight people will bear witness for the first time.
That's so exciting. And so was it your idea, Al, or did somebody come to you and go, would you like to do this? Or are you like that brilliant that you go, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it happen?
Well,
That's what you did, isn't it?
I don't want to say that, but
You did that.
Well, I'll say this. The Lerner and Lowe estates, and they're separate estates, like the Rogers and Hammerstein Collective, they operate separately. And I think both of them knew that Brigadoon was a property of theirs that's been underutilized in the last 50 years. That they realized that major productions haven't happened because the script doesn't resonate as fully in the 21st century. Some of their more popular properties like Camelot, My Fair Lady. And I think they were keen to address that because there hasn't been a production on Broadway in over 40 years.
Wow.
And this last production that was in London in open air was the first in 35 years. So it's something that clearly is in the zeitgeist that people get that script and go, maybe we'll do something else. And so it was a bit of a dialogue between us, but ultimately I pitched it to them and said, would you consider this? And they read it and have been very enthusiastic and supportive. And, I think that's a lesson too in you just never know until you try something, just to sort of keep making things and keep putting yourself out there. And, I'll say this, I remember my very first audition for anything professional, which became my first job, The Woman in White.
That was your first audition?
Yeah.
And you got it.
It was a little bizarre.
You are amazing. You're amazing.
I mean, that was a bit of a princess story, but that also feels like another life. But I'll say this. I remember being in the Really Useful Group offices and like being in the loo and looking in the mirror and going, I mean, they have to cast someone. Like, It might as well be me.
Yeah, why not?
And I could go, they're going to cast someone with more experience. They're going to cast somebody who's famous. But I'm about to go in the room, and my entrance into the room is my honest shot at bidding and making them an offer. So, just share yourself and go for it. But I just, the thought of, they got to cast somebody, I think has always fueled me a little bit of like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how we ended up here. But it's been a dream. Yeah.
I love it. So let's start with my questions, Al.
Okay.
What was the first musical you ever met?
Okay, the first musical I ever saw was a high school production of 42nd Street. It wasn't just a high school, though. It was Beverly Hills High School in Beverly Hills, California. So, we're talking about, production values. Do you know what I mean?
Is that the same school as 90210? Is that the school that was...
So I was born in Los Angeles. And by the way, listeners beaming in from Los Angeles right now. I left Los Angeles when I was 9 and we moved to a suburb of Detroit. But it's funny because I do have these incredibly specific, under 9 memories. And one of them was seeing 42nd Street at Beverly Hills High School with probably a greater budget than some regional theater productions. You know what I mean? Just because of the Hollywood money, right?
Yeah. They invested in that.
Totally. But it's a state school. But I just remember it's almost in some ways the most musical musicals. It's like the Uber musical.
It's the musical about musicals, isn't it?
Yes, right? And I just was so unbelievably swept away. And the tap and the music and the story of a seemingly ordinary person that gets to save the day. What I love, though, about that is it feels like such an important story of, again, creating real depth and dramaturgical meaning in these musicals. I sometimes think they are deeply dismissed. But the story of someone who underestimates themselves only to discover that they have enormous power, confidence, and multitudes within them is a story we all need.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other things I love about it is oftentimes the two women in a musical, they're often pitted against one another, or there's the sort of classic All About Eve story. And what I like about this is it starts with that dynamic, but ends with a torch passing between Dorothy Brock and Peggy. And it's just, I don't know, I just find it really, really beautiful and human. And it was the first thing that ripped off my bandages.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, I had a sort of footnote answer. Also in Beverly Hills, California, my 3rd grade class did a radio play version of the musical Annie.
Oh, wow.
And it was, obviously pared down for kids and stuff.
So what age is that? 3rd grade?
Oh, 3rd grade is 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
I was 8 and I played Miss Hannigan. And was my performance a slightly inappropriate carbon copy of Carol Burnett and including her drunkenness? Sure.
Right?
Right?
There is a recording of this somewhere?
Of course there is.
Oh my
Of course there
God.
is.
I want that in my inbox by an hour's time, please.
Of course. I think, though, the reason I bring that up was, and I actually sort of have the same question for you, is do you remember the moment that you realized you could sing?
I do. I can tell you the song I was singing and where I was sitting when it happened.
Okay, this is incredible. So for me, it was, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Little Girls, where I was singing the song. I witnessed on other people's faces that what was happening was positive, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was just making noise, but I saw on their faces that something positive was happening. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
kids don't know. So that was also very significant where I was like, oh, I could really meaningfully participate in this art form.
Yeah.
Okay, but what's your answer?
So I remember I was sitting down. It was an afternoon, like assembly, weirdly, an afternoon assembly when I was in infant school. So I was probably about 6. And one of the school songs we sang, I can't remember what it was called, but it started with the words, "The golden cockerel crows in the morning." And I really liked it. I really liked the tune. It was quite a bop. And I started singing it. I was really happy singing it. And I remember something happened to me and my voice started doing something. I didn't know what it was doing. And my friend Sally Davis, it wasn't quite the impact it was having on Sally Davis was one of like, what the hell's going on with you?
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily a positive thing. It was like a shock that this voice was coming out of me. And yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. So, but I absolutely remember it. And I think like after that, I was always chasing that feeling of finding that voice again. I don't know if I've ever found it again, but yeah, it was a weird thing. I remember where I was sitting. I remember where the piano was. Such a weird thing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Those are, those are core memories.
Yeah. Wonder if that needs to be one of my new questions. Where were you when you realized you could sing?
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my double answer.
Yeah. Oh, I've got Aaron.
So,
Aaron is messaging me on here saying,
the golden cockerel crows in the morning. Wake up, children, welcome the day.
God's bright sun is riding the heavens, chasing sleepy heads away.
Oh!
Yeah. It's a great song. I'm going to Google it now and find out more about it.
It's about, as you said.
Yeah.
As the kids say.
I'm a bit sad it wasn't Little Girls, though. That would have been a lot funnier.
I know. I sort of think about it now and I was like, oh my, what an introduction.
Yeah, that's so great. What a great thing to do. So let's lead that into my next question. I guess aside from the radio play of Annie, what was the first musical you were involved in?
Okay, this is actually a phenomenally adorable thing and very, very starry answer. So my parents were very much like no professional child acting. They were very like, have a childhood. And maybe it was because they were from Los Angeles. I think there's just like a slightly different culture there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they were just like, have a childhood and get involved in community theater or blah, blah, blah. But so when we moved to Michigan, I moved to a suburb just outside of Detroit. And my dad was originally from Detroit. It still exists. There is a community theater there called the Village Players.
Fabulous.
And I was one of the children of River City, specifically Mayor Shin's youngest daughter, Gracie. And the children of River City all became professional actors. Like, it's kind of bananas. So Andrew Keenan Bolger was Winthrop. His multi-Tony Award-winning sister, Celia, was Zanita. There was a former Colin from The Secret Garden was Tommy Giles. Like, the children of River City rushed on and it was like, Broadway!
What were you guys drinking in those rehearsals?
Yeah, I don't know. But it was one of those things where like, it was just like an incredibly starry child cast. And then perfectly decent, wonderful adult company of English teachers and, people that worked for the car factories. But it was just fabulous. I love The Music Man. I think it's such a special, special show. And the book is incredible. It plays like a play. I think for me, there were a couple things about that were really important. One, in the UK, it's often called AmDram, amateur dramatics, but in the US, it's called community theater. And I really like that phrase. I find it really powerful because we as professionals often call it like, oh, in the community, in the theater community. And what I like about community theater is that it slightly inverses it and says, oh, this is a theater that serves its community, not a community made up of theater people. And yet what's cool about community theater is it's sort of both, right? And in a lot of ways, community theater helped raise me. I had adult mentors that were not my teachers, not my parents, not my aunts and uncles. I had friends. One of the things I love about the theater as a community, which I don't think exists in any other art form in quite the same way, is the democracy of ages, right? That like a 5-year-old and a 90-year-old are colleagues.
Yes.
You know, it's like so special to me. And you wouldn't get that in an orchestra. You wouldn't get that in a ballet company. It's very age hierarchical. And I think I just found it so empowering. And in a show like that in particular, where there were a lot of other children, it was a way that really welcomed me into this new community that I'd moved to and gave me a sense of belonging and purpose. And
Yeah, you make friends and
like coming together for a higher purpose of putting on this show.
And was it something your parents got involved with as well, or did you search this out for yourself?
I think that it was kind of on our radar in the sense that like there were advertisements at the schools for kids to be in the show. But no, my parents weren't in the show. They just supported me being a part of this and picked me up and dropped me off. And I'll say as a little epilogue, not even 2 months ago, I did a huge Broadway benefit called Broadway Backwards, which takes iconic scenes from musical theater and swaps the sexes and genders for equity fights, AIDS, and LGBTQ plus issues. And I ran into Andrew Keenan-Bolger. And I was like, hi, congrats on being amazing. And he's like, you too. And we had this remember when moment. And now we're both in the industry, come so far from River City.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
So it was really special.
It's bizarre to me in certain occasions how small the world of theatre is.
Absolutely.
I find that incredible. I mean, it's a running joke now, but usually if I'm in a show and somebody else in the same show is from Wales, you can guarantee there'll be somebody we both know really well. We might not already know each other, but we'll have so much in common.
Oh, completely.
But then sometimes you have things in common with people who are from Scotland or from Yorkshire or from the States.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. When I went out to the States and worked, there were people out there who knew people from London, and it's a small industry. It has a big, wide impact, but it's a small industry.
Absolutely. And I think there's part of the beauty of it is it's very old world, right? Where once upon a time it was like, oh, you need a plumber? My neighbor's a plumber. I'll recommend, they're a good person. Like this word of mouth, personal vetting, experiential type industry and universe, we didn't used to be able to just look people up. We had to get to know them via other people and via communities, and I feel like the theater community really still works that way. It's nice.
I love that, like you say, your community theatre is still going. Mine isn't. My Amdram is defunct now.
What was it called?
Cumbrawn Amateur Operatic Society. Chaos for short.
Oh my God.
CAOS. Chaos. It was chaos.
That's phenomenal.
But it was fabulous chaos.
What were some of the roles you gave us at Chaos?
Oh, what did I do? I was Annie Get Your Gun, Nellie.
Oh, I bet you were fabulous.
And
okay.
a little Nellie and Annie Get Your Gun singing, doing what comes naturally with the Annie, Sound of Music. Brigadoon. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was Bonnie Jean.
You were Bonnie Jean.
I do a mean Scottish accent. Thank you. I was. Come to me, bend to me, and all that.
What a score. I should mention, by the way, our Brigadoon has a 25-piece orchestra. Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that is incredible. How have you managed that?
Wait, which Von Trapp child were you?
Brigitte, thank you. The best one.
Of course you were.
Yes.
The best one.
She has the most lines, and I counted them.
I counted them. That sounds very you. Of course. The one who sees all. R.I.P. Chaos, but thank you for all you gave my friend. And many, many others, I'm sure.
There's still a very strong Amdram community back where I'm from, and it's fantastic. And I do think it is the grassroots of our business. And anyone who ever starts sort of talking about it disparagingly, they get very short shrift from me, because I think it's the most wonderful.
I want to say something. I'm going to get on my soapbox about that and join you. You can join me on this soapbox if you wish.
I will.
Which is like one of the most beautiful things about the arts is that at every level of professionalism, it can enhance the lives of the practitioners. You can play a cello in your living room. You can paint in your backyard. You can be a part of Amdram. Write poetry for yourself and have it enhance your life. And you don't have to get paid to do it to have it be significant. On the flip side of that, I say, just because it's a labor of love for those of us who do it, just because it's a labor of love doesn't mean it isn't labor, and deserve to be paid accordingly for that labor and that expertise. But I just think there's something so special about the fact that the arts provide access to life enhancement and meaning making. And there's a reason there aren't amateur surgical societies. Many reasons. I think that there's just something about the democracy of that I find really powerful.
No, you're right. I love that. And I love the labor of love thing. Just because it's a labor of love doesn't mean it's not labor and should be paid for accordingly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me some more of your community theatre roles, Al.
Louise and Carousel, if you can believe it.
Oh my gosh, lovely.
I know. My experience as Julie Jordan in Carousel in the West End and on tour was very like, oh my gosh, I was a kid and now I'm all grown up.
Yeah, yeah.
Very powerful. I was a little ballerina. That was like another entry point for me.
Nice.
And I remember feeling in the classical ballet world, which I have huge respect for. It's just there's like a lot of rules, and I wasn't great at the rules. So when an opportunity came for me to use some of those skills, but in a more loose storytelling sense, it was very empowering to basically like do theatrical storytelling through dance as Louise. Very powerful experience for me as a tween. I think I was 12 or 13 when I did that. I did Babes in Toyland, a vintage operetta.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And is anything else coming to mind? Can't remember, but I also just remember consuming a lot of community theater. It's where I first saw Sweeney Todd. It's where I first saw Camelot. It's where I first saw Into the Woods. Had it not been for those theaters, I would not have been able to walk through the door of a theater and experience those works of art.
Mm-hmm.
So great service to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Some of my friends still do loads of shows back home, and a lot of Mike's friends carry on doing his Amdram back it up in Hull. And they've played far more parts than I've ever played. Because they get to do like 2 shows a year and it's all great shows,
Exactly. I look at some of these people and it's like, how have you played How to Gabler and I haven't? Like, what?
Come on.
Yeah. So
we need to go back to it. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. Well, anyway, play on.
My next question is, which show have you seen the most often? Which you were a repeat attender of?
Okay, I don't know if this is by accident, but that 2006 Michael Grandage production of Evita, the specific production, I think I saw it 6 times.
Wow.
And not always because I was like, I can't wait to go back. I think it was because I knew so many people in it on both sides of the pond. I also say I auditioned for it. I didn't get it, but Elena Roger, that star was born, and, Viva Elena. So went to see it on opening night. And then my colleague Yvette Robinson was the alternate, and she went on and I had to go see her. That was a beautiful, beautiful performance. Then when it transferred to Broadway, in fact, this is a tie-in to Brigadoon tonight. The beautiful singing actor playing our Tommy Albright in Brigadoon is named Max von Essen, and he was the Broadway Magaldi.
Oh, wow.
And the Shea cover. So I was one of his opening night dates. So I saw him as Magaldi. And then he went on as Shea, and I had to go. Those are the 4 I distinctly remember, but I know I went more than that to see other pals do it. And I feel like I could call the show as a stage manager at this point. Do you know what I mean? Even though that was now a decade ago. Like, and here it comes, and lights, and 3, 2, 1, go. Like, I feel like I could. But,
I love the fact that you just said a decade ago is 2 decades ago. Did you say 2006? Yeah, that's 2 decades ago.
It was 2000.
I know. I'm sorry. I know it's a stressful time for you right now, but I didn't mean to make it any worse. I'm so sorry.
Oh my God. Okay. Dear listeners, I'm just lightly patting my under eyes. But Kaz, don't you still feel like 30 years old?
Yes, I am. What are you talking about?
Yeah, totally. I'm still 29. What are you talking about?
That was a great production, though, that Evita show. Matt Rawle, Philip Quast, Elena.
Philip Quast was...
Gary Milner, I think.
Oh, it was so Gary Milner, who I'm a huge fan of.
Love Gary.
Yeah, a phenomenal cast. I'll never forget it. I'll also say I'm half Latina, and it, to me, is like such a beautiful part of Latin American history and the complexity of Argentina and the complexity of Peronism and the onset of...
Very resonant right now.
Very resonant right now. And, I think in a lot of ways, modern day Argentina and modern day Latin America are still reeling from that era.
Gosh, wow.
And, it's just, I don't know, it's very interesting to see it from a human standpoint. And the score slaps. Oh my God, is that score good?
It's fantastic, isn't it?
It's just like not a line of fat is on that score.
I don't know why, but I think the film came out when I was in my 2nd or 3rd year of drama college, and I bought that soundtrack, Antonio Banderas, Madonna, and Jonathan Pryce. I devoured it. I absolutely devoured it. So much so that when I went to see the show, I think I'd seen a touring production of it once when I was a lot younger, but I didn't realize actually how the film is very similar to the show. It's almost identical, I would say.
I think one of the things that's so incredible about the identicalness sacredness of the piece of cinema is because it's a sung through score.
Yeah.
The differences and the changes that one can make to that are about the shots that they take, not about, there's no book to change. It's a sung through piece.
And if I actually think a fantastic film, to be honest.
It's a fantastic film. And, the thing I will say in general about the piece, about Evita as a musical is, people often discuss it as spectacle. They often discuss Lloyd Webber as spectacle in general, but let's just focus on Evita for a second. And of course it is spectacular, right? But structurally, it's astonishing. And now that I'm writing books of musicals, I can appreciate it on a different level. It weaponizes theatricality and charisma. The show itself behaves like the very propaganda it's interrogating. It interrogates myth-making. It interrogates political manipulation and public mourning. And it does all of that at once through song.
Yeah.
And musically, it understands ambition better than almost any musical I know. Even, I think, on par with Gypsy. And the score just never lets you settle emotionally. It keeps interrogating that charisma, why we worship it, why we resent it, why we need it. And every time I revisit it, I find a different tragedy inside it.
Yeah, it's a dense show, isn't it?
It is.
There's a lot to dissect in there. And like Lloyd Webber and Rice, their partnership was at its peak, I think, in that.
Absolutely.
So my next question, that's fabulous. Which musical made you laugh the most? And which musical made you cry the most?
Okay, there's no second place answer. Just to be clear. Sometimes when you're like, there's the number one answer, and then the second place is like in the 9th slot because the amount of laughter of the first one fills all 8 slots. Okay.
Wow.
It is the original Broadway company of The Drowsy Chaperone.
Oh, yeah.
I did the thing where you're like, I'm concerned that I'm going to pass out because I'm not getting enough oxygen. And I should also say, by the way, I love to laugh, but I'm very, very slow to laugh.
Right.
I'm like the comedian's worst nightmare because I'm one of those, that's funny people in the audience. I don't actually make a noise. I'm like, mad respect for that joke. Like, horrible, right? But this show got me on a level where something primal happened, right? And I think the fact that the show understands something deeply true about theater people, and, of which, here we are doing this podcast right now, nerding out, but loving musicals sincerely and sometimes mocking them affectionately are not contradictions, that they are part of the worship and part of the nerddom. And I'll just say this, an actual decade ago in 2016, there was the very first Broadway con, like Comic-Con or Star Trek Con or whatever. There was a Broadway con. And it was the year that I was doing Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. Incidentally, next to a Drowsy Chaperone star, Danny Burstein was Tevye.
Yes, of course.
I know, crazy. And I was like, you have no idea how much you have made me laugh. And now cry. Anyway, So we were doing like an interview there. And I remember, I feel like you would have joined me in this realization. So I'm walking around Broadway Con and we're about to do this Fiddler on the Roof panel. But of course, we're walking through and seeing all the booths. And I just had this realization where I went, I am a hair's breadth away from being one of these people. I am
totally
a hair's breadth away from being dressed as Mame and buying merch. Like, these are my people.
Is that what you would dress at? You would dress as Mame?
Specifically the Mame costume with the giant white fur coat with the train.
Yes.
It's iconic.
Email me that photo as well, or just draw it for me.
Of course. But you're walking around and you're like, oh my gosh, people are dressed as Mrs. Lovett, people dressed as Shrek. You're like, it's just, I am you. We are one. But I think that Drowsy Chaperone is one of the rare shows that satirizes the form while simultaneously defending it with its whole heart.
Absolutely.
And beneath the jokes is a profound argument that musicals save lonely people. And I think that's why audiences feel protective of it.
There's no meanness there, is there?
None. Not a shred of meanness. I just have to say, it was the kind of laughter where I was hitting the person next to me who was a stranger, and you're like, that kind of laughing.
Did you go and watch it totally unaware of what you're about to watch? Was the whole thing a surprise, or had you listened to the recording? Or
the entire thing was a surprise. Every single thing was a surprise.
Oh, that's fabulous. To watch that totally new.
It was so pure.
Yeah.
It was so pure.
I kind of feel sad for that sometimes over here because, not for the British shows because we get to see those first.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times you hear about shows from Broadway, you then hear the soundtrack,
of course.
You hear about what the storyline is and you see photos from it. So to actually see something fresh and new
I know.
and original for the first time is a really special thing. And it just happened to Mike and I, actually, because we went and watched Maybe Happy Ending, having not really any idea what it was about. And we were
Oh,
utterly charmed and fell madly in love. But I didn't look up too much about it before I went to see it because I wanted to have that experience of not knowing what was going to happen.
I just feel like there's nothing like it. Okay, are we going to talk about tears now?
I'm worried that you like drowned a theatre now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've also seen me on stage. You know I can cry. I love to cry in a
You
corset.
love a tragic heroine.
Tragic heroine. I was actually just joking the other day with Tyne Daly, who is in my Brigadoon.
As you do.
And she was like, I think your crying days are almost at their end. And I was like, phenomenal. Can't wait. I can't
Yeah.
wait to sort of play the like snarky mom now. I don't know about you, but I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 3 answers. I promise I'll be brief. The first is ragtime. I will even send you a photo of me seeing the revival where I just placed towels from the loo under my glasses so they could just sop up the tears as they inevitably came. I'll send you the photo because it's pretty strong.
Thank you.
Ragtime was the first musical I ever saw on Broadway. It was my first Broadway show.
Oh, wow. Great start.
Oh, I know. And it was very significant because the musical was very important to my family. The cast recording was very important to my family. We would listen to it in the car. Even though they were not performers, they loved musical theater, were very supportive of it. This is actually a really sweet story about my dad. My dad won the tickets on like a radio talk program. And he called, it's like so old worldy, called in, answered the questions, won the tickets, and he won a trip to New York and to House Seats to Ragtime. It was our first like family trip to New York, and it was a very, very significant event for all of us for a lot of reasons. But I think for me, the same thing that happened to me watching 42nd Street as a child, I think happened to me on this professional level where I was just like, I am going to do this. That was 1998. Not dissimilar, although, it's so much more chaotic now. And this is for a whole other podcast, what it means to be American. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And all of the problems we are still trying to, endeavoring to deal with and face and correct and atone for. My father was a civil rights attorney, and I think it just hit me on a lot of levels. And it was a very, very powerful experience. And as a little epilogue to that, we have this thing in America called the Red Bucket season, and it's where Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, which is this enormous organization that came together around the AIDS crisis, for which the Broadway community was hit particularly hard. We take collections for 1 month. It's now actually becoming 2 months out of every year. And we happen to see Ragtime during the Red Bucket collection. So what happens is cast members go up and down the aisles, or they wait in the lobby, and you can donate. And sometimes you can purchase things like, the entire cast signed a poster, or the entire cast signed a program, stuff like that. And I remember very significantly going to the lobby with my parents and running into Stephen Sutcliffe, who was the original Mother's younger brother, Alex Strange, who was the original little boy, and Judy Kay, who was the original Emma Goldman.
Yeah.
And they were all together holding a bucket, and we walked up to them, and I think I was having the sensation too that I couldn't believe Broadway actors were people. Like, oh my God, they're real.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you'll relate to this. I was at Disney and was like meeting Pluto. Do you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God, that level of awe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my dad started like bragging, it's like my daughter is in the school musical and she wants to do this one. I went, kill me, just the, wanting the ground beneath me to swallow me whole. Please stop talking about this. And I'll never forget the kindness. Judy Kay specifically looked right at me, deep into my soul. And she paused and she went, you will. I'll never forget it. Ever, ever, ever. Epilogue to that story. I made my Carnegie Hall debut with Judy Kay. And I didn't bring this story up because how do you casually bring this up?
Yeah.
Anyway, I waited for my moment, and I'm about to say a sentence that's pretty bizarre, but the Carnegie Hall debut concert we were doing was a staged concert of a very strange musical called Song of Norway.
Okay.
Based on the music of Edvard Grieg.
Yes.
Don't ask me what the plot is. Couldn't tell you. But the music is gorgeous.
Right.
We were advertising, we were sort of doing a press event at a hotel singing for the Queen of Norway.
Great.
And as I think many performers are familiar with, we were like in black tie waiting in the kitchen. It's like a very, very performer.
Totally. Yeah.
Familiar, right? We're in the kitchen. And Judy was sort of quiet and she was looking to the side and I said, what's going on, Judy? And she said, oh, I don't want to be unprofessional, but my father just passed away a couple months ago and I just really miss him and feeling sad. And I said, oh, that's so hard. And she goes, one of the things I can't believe is that when someone dies, every person you meet from then on we'll never know the person you've lost. I think I'm going to make all these new friends as I keep moving through life, and none of them will know my dad.
Wow.
And I just was like, this is your moment now. This is your moment. And I told her, obviously every loss is different, but this is a really interesting moment to say, we just met, as professionals, but you have met my dad. And I repainted the memory, and she went white and she goes, I remember you.
Wow.
I remember. And it was one of the most powerful echoes, I think, of my life.
I'm getting proper goosebumps here.
And, talk about community and talk about inclusivity and kindness and generosity. And she told me I would do it, and I did. And I feel like when I die and they do my autopsy, that memory will be tattooed on my heart. Dear listeners,
Yes.
Caroline Sheen got a little tearful.
I know, you've made me a bit teary there, Al. It's a really beautiful story. I might be totally wrong here, but with your dad blowing your trumpet like that to those Broadway performers and you being mortally embarrassed, was there a tiny little seed in there of that embarrassment going, actually, no, I'm really glad that they know I want to do this. Can I really take this seriously?
Of course. I've never been asked that, but yeah, of course there was.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be one of you.
Yes.
And I endeavor to deserve to be was totally there.
I'm serious about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very, very special. So that crying event was that one. I promise these next two answers will be briefer. The Secret Garden.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done Secret Garden? I feel like you've done Secret.
No, I haven't. But I saw they did a really lovely production of it probably 25 years ago. No, God knows how long it was.
I just feel like you'd be so good in that.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 2003, maybe 2002, 2003. Philip Quast again.
Where did they do it?
The RSC did
it.
it.
The RSC did it. I have that recording. That they made a recording of it.
Beautiful recording. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yes. That is a recording, the Broadway recording, that's so complete that you can almost experience the entire show as a radio play, listening to the original cast recording. At the center of that play, it's a story about a 10-year-old girl who has lost her parents and moves to a different place and learns that through the power of nature and the power of positive thinking that miracles can happen. And that story came to me when I was 10. And I think the parallels in my own biographical life were pretty stark, that I would have gone to the ends of the earth to save my dad and cure my dad. And I remember, it's so funny, you would think that I would love all of the Mary songs, or, I wanted to be a soprano, so all the Lily songs. And the lyric that stuck out to me the most when I first heard the recording was, come spirit, come charm, come days that are warm, come magical spell, come help him get well. And I think it hit me on a, just lizard brain level. I now see that it was about a little 10-year-old Al trying to heal her father.
Absolutely.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful story, beautiful musical. And I think it's often trivialized, actually. And I think it's actually a very profound meditation on grief and illness and loss. And Frances Hodgson Burnett, the novel writer, was, first of all, the main breadwinner of her family.
Wow.
When she was publishing her novels. There's a lot of publications of her letters to publishers where she's like, my main objective is remuneration. I want to make money for my family. And talk about labor of love also being labor. But additionally, she was coming of age inside what's now sort of called the naturalist movement, where people really believed that the power of being in nature, which there's a lot of scientific evidence for now, and the power of positive thinking could heal the human body and mind. And that book is a reflection of that movement and her involvement in it. And it's just it's really interesting how there's historical parallels to it.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. I think positive thinking is half the reason why I got to where I've got to, because I manifested it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's also going back to why not? Why not me?
Yeah.
It's not delusional.
You need someone, right?
And it's not toxic positivity, which I think that veers into not allowing difficult or negative emotions to ever participate in our heart and mind. It's simply, I like to view myself not necessarily as an optimist, but as a pragmatic realist that accepts that life is made up of all of those things, and therefore denying either is really dulling the colors of the human experience. And that by really experiencing and feeling the difficult emotions, we enhance our experience of joy and positivity, I think.
Oh, totally. Have to have the highs to have the lows.
And finally, this answer is shocking. American Idiot.
Oh, No.
Do you remember when you were like, did you drown the theater?
Why did you cry?
So it was 2009 or 10. I was going through a very, very deep, horrible, painful breakup. The love of my 20s. I was experiencing, I didn't know it at the time, millennial malaise.
Oh.
And having not been in America for 10 plus years, I think I was having an outside-in experience of what it meant to be American. You know, it almost feels like it was in dialogue with Ragtime. And when you're like, did you drown the theater? They literally went, ma'am, we're closing the theater. You have to leave. I was so devastated in my chair.
Wow.
And I think I was catharting emotions that had to do with a lot of different things, but it captured my millennial despair, and it felt genuinely dangerous and alive. And, you know, American Idiot's anger wasn't very tidy. And I think audiences in our age group at that time felt very seen by it. And it, of course, was the soundtrack of my youth. And anyway, I had a breakdown. The end.
Wow.
Thank you for indulging my triple answer.
I do think sometimes musicals can make you really surprised by your reaction to them.
I mean, I was sitting there going, oh, you know, Green Day. Something somatic left my body. I can't explain it. And, you know, like, why did you cry? I don't know. But it was deep. I cried out the crayon I ate in preschool. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just, oh, there's that crayon. Yeah, it was that.
My final question of the first act is a confession question. Is there a musical out there that you regret that you haven't seen yet?
I don't think I can say like, oh, I never saw this musical. I can say there's a performance I wish I had a time machine for, and I was technically alive. But my time machine and a pair of comps answer is seeing Tyne Daly as Mama Rose in Gypsy.
Yes.
You know, I think also the knowledge of having shared a stage with Tyne and the amount of energy that radiates off this. I mean, there's nothing else to call her but a theater animal.
This was in Masterclass, ladies and gentlemen. And something else? Did you do something else with her as well?
No, just Masterclass.
Just Masterclass.
But we did it several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're just like, I'm in the presence of an uncaged tiger.
Wow.
Marrying that with that role, I just think would have been unreal. So that's my answer for that.
And how different was that from your experience of her as a human being? Is she an untamed tiger in real life?
In some ways, yes, in some ways. And in other ways, she's just a little girl, like all of us.
Yeah.
And what I think I love about Tyne is she's so singular in her selfness and so excellent at life. And I relate to it because, I mean, I'm sure you have this too, where you know how big I've seen you on stage and like the bigness of how much you, Caroline Sheen, radiate when you are downstage center doing your thing. But also like the person that just wakes up in the morning and, you know, uses a special voice with your daughter or your pets. Like all of those are you. None of them are more or less you. I think Tyne has that. Going back to the, oh my gosh, these Broadway stars are actually people.
Yeah. I've always had her in my head because growing up over here, I'm guessing it was the same growing up in the States, but Cagney and Lacey was so huge.
Oh, huge.
My mum adored it. So it was always on television. And also like older girls that I really loved and respected loved it too. So I was like, I don't think I was ever even allowed to stay up late enough to watch it, but I knew about it because people talked about it and I saw pictures and I just saw these two women being incredible, juggling their lives, juggling their work and their relationships. And then I heard that she was going to be Gypsy. And I just remember thinking, wow, somebody from the telly can sing. That's so cool. Because you don't feel like people who are on the telly can do anything else but what they do on the telly, you know?
Right, of course.
I just remember thinking she must be so good at that part because, like you say, she has this energy to her and it radiates off the screen and like on stage it must radiate as well.
It's operatically big.
Will you please tell her that I love her? Thank you very much.
Of course I shall.
I love that you're going to be in a room with her later on. That's just in an hour.
I know. Okay, this was a joy already. Act 1.
Okay, Act 1, end. So, on Talk Musicals to me, I thought I would use this opportunity to support some friends of mine who have small businesses. And I put a message out on my social media to see who would get in touch and to see how I can help them amplify their voices. So, I have a couple of ones that I would like to mention today. So this one is from my friend John Chartres, who runs a small business specialising in accounting for the arts, self-employed actors, musicians and stage management, as well as small production companies. Friendly advice and good value for anyone who wants to get in touch at fresheyesfinance.co.uk. And this is from a dear mummy pal of mine called Lucy McCrudden, who runs a non-profit called Dance Mama, which is dedicated to supporting parents who dance on and off stage. With evidence-based information and support, plus over 80-plus stories, we help parents continue their careers in dance from a physical, mental, creative and logistical viewpoint. Check out www.dancemama.org to see how they can help you navigate your career as a parent. And finally, Jessica runs something that sounds like great fun, a thing called Showtime Circus, which can be found at Showtime_circus on Instagram. It's a circus school franchise and helps other small business owners franchise or license their business. It's based in Birmingham, but I think there's lots of them around the country. So get online and have a look if you want to learn some circus skills. Hello and welcome back to the second act of Talk Musicals to Me with Alexandra Silber, who is currently about to go to her open dress rehearsal of her new version of Brigadoon in Los Angeles, and I can't wait to hear more about it. So you chose Brigadoon to reinvent-ish, to readdress for the 21st century. My first question here is, which musical would you choose to put on the school curriculum?
I love this question. I think the school curriculum for me would probably be Fiddler on the Roof.
Do you know what? This is often a choice. This is often a choice for this.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. I was worried you'd be like, ugh, Al, for you, that's such a basic answer. I mean, I've done a lot of Fiddler.
I'm waiting for your Golden now.
Yeah, any day. Let's go.
You've done all the girls. Now.
Yeah, the great thing about Fiddler as a Jewish female musical theater performer is you get to play all the girls, and then you get to play the mom, and then you get to play the dead people.
Yes.
So there's no time limit.
Yeah. I should explain, Al has played Hoddle in London and then Zeitel in New York. And then she wrote a book.
I did. Called After Anatevka, about what happens to Hoddle and Perchik when they go to Siberia.
Which I think is so cool.
I think that there's several things that are really crucial to it that I think go so far beyond its Jewish specificity. You know, it's a play about family. It's about old generations and younger generations coming up against one another in terms of social change, traditions, and mores. It's about tolerance and intolerance. It's about political upheaval. And I just think that whoever you are, wherever you're from, there are doorways in to illuminating your human experience. It's a piece, too, that has enormous international appeal because certain countries think that it's a metaphor for them. So a very famous story is when Sheldon Harnick, the lyricist of Fiddler on the Roof, flew over to Japan to see the original Japanese production. The comment that he was greeted with was, "How did you know how to write such a Japanese musical? It's so Japanese." And of course, if you think about it, that is another 5,000-year-old ancient culture for whom the older and younger generations come to a head about modernity and what it means to keep the parts of you that feel important and carry them forward, but leave behind the things that no longer feel socially relevant.
And steeped in tradition.
Steeped in tradition and, you know, the honoring of the parents and the old ways. When you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, those parallels are completely there. So it's really beautiful. And then, you know, there's a lot of research about how the piece goes over very, very darkly and dramatically in Poland. It's a piece that's done very often in Poland. And in Poland, it's much more about people relate to it in terms of being politically exiled from their homes and the big bad Russian government doing that to them. And, you know, I think that's something that American audiences don't necessarily have any relationship to at all. So it's a piece that clearly resonates across ages, countries, languages, time periods, eras in which the productions are presented. And I think it's just incredibly valuable in terms of like making it curricular would be such an interesting, empathetic talking point, starting place. And I will also say, though, I equally mean this in terms of its craft and in terms of its artfulness. It is a book. Joseph Stein, to me, is like the absolute book writer of the 20th century. There is not one piece of fat on the Fiddler on the Roof text, and the book to song relationship and ratio is perfection. That it's a divine balance. And so I think even studying it artistically would be beneficial as well, because it's just perfect about how characters move from language to song and ultimately to dance. It's a really beautiful example.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I know this is going to sound, is it going to sound basic? It might sound basic, but I do love the fact that you wrote a sequel.
Thank you.
Because quite often, if I can't sleep at night and I'm involved in a show or something, I'll sort of go, I wonder what happened to them after that happened. And I'll sort of try and make up a little story in my head, and then I'll end up falling asleep. And I never do anything about it. But the fact that you went, what happened to them? What would have happened to them? And to follow that through and to create that, I think is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
It's incredible. It's called After Anatevka, everybody. And can we get it places out? Is it still out there?
Anywhere books are sold, it's all there. Enjoy.
So incredible. How did that feel, being like a published writer? Did you go into a bookshop and see it?
It's pretty bananas. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm like, it's also, by the way, something for an actor. It's a show that never closes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll get letters from people that just finished it and have had this profound emotional experience that I haven't had any kind of daily relationship to in years, but they just finished it. They've been spending the last couple of weeks with my words and characters, and it's such a powerful thing. It also kind of shows you the role of every art form. That one of the things that's so incredible about literature is its accessibility. You can get it at a library and have a profound experience and not have to geographically be in a specific place or have the money to walk through the door, which is, another podcast about theater and affordability.
Oh, totally.
But I think it's really special. So yeah, it's phenomenal.
There's a book it's based on, Fiddler on the Roof. Is it? I feel like, is it Tevye the Milkman or something like that?
Yes. So there's a collection of short stories called Tevye the Dairyman by Shalom Aleichem.
Dairyman. Right, that's it.
And another collection of stories called Tevye and His Daughters.
Oh, wow.
And many, many interpretations of them in the Yiddish theater, in cinema, before the musical ever took shape.
Amazing.
And I think one of the things that's really interesting about it is the musical is very American. It is definitely influenced by the post-World War II Jewish comedian, Borscht Belt comic circuit. Those rhythms are there. The American musical is sort of our Shakespeare, so the art form itself is very American. But what was so powerful about being one of two Americans in that West End production in 2006, 7, 8 was seeing it as a profoundly European story. And, in many ways getting to sort of experience its origins from the outside in.
Oh, interesting.
Even the accents we used, the West End audiences would not experience an American accent as a neutral.
Yeah.
And so we had to kind of discover what the accents were going to be. But when I did it in New York, we all did American accents and there was a sort of neutrality to the sound. But we also in America don't have the same character and class distinctions between accents. There's more homogeny and you are able to sort of experience it all a bit more neutrally. So things like that are really interesting and powerful. But yeah, the short stories are incredible and they are documented pieces of evidence of something very Jewish, which is oral tradition, oral storytelling.
Yeah.
And Shalom Aleichem is, one of our most important Yiddish, both writers of short stories and dramatists, with other people like Sholem Asch and Singer, a bunch of other people that really, really shaped the early American theater that was informed by the European tradition.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know so much about this stuff, Al. It's so fascinating to hear you talk about it.
Well, thank you. But one of the things I love about being an actor is that you get to be like a little historian, dramaturgical expert on this like incredibly specific thing. And then you move on and you learn something else.
Like deep dive.
Right? It's the best because you're always growing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. It really is. Ask me anything about the 13 assassins. In Assassins, I'll tell you everything.
Everything.
I know these things.
Exactly.
I kind of feel like this next question is probably something you're literally right now involved with. But my question is, which forgotten musical would you like to see being revived? I'm guessing maybe Brigadoon?
I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Brigadoon. I think I'll say this without spoilers. And I think this subject, the parallel of the subject might be something very close to your heart, that my Brigadoon does a couple of different things. But one of the things it centrally addresses is the reason behind the miracle of why they ask to disappear into the mists and only reappear every 100 years. In the original, it's like, it's a little cringe. It's like these evil women, witches, were coming for our culture, and these women, and we needed to protect ourselves from witches. And it was just a little tooth suck.
Yeah.
If we really are looking at 18th century Scottish history, we're talking about all of the Jacobite rebellions. We're talking about, 1707 was the unification of Great Britain. We're talking about a culture, a people with their own language, with their own traditions, with their own music, their own customs, who were, we love our English pals, but were being asked to Anglicanize their lives against their will. And I think there are multiple global discussions about this right now, and so many ways into that I think are very, basically, like, indigeneity is a conversation that we've been having since time immemorial. In the middle of the 2020s, we're having it in a slightly different way, but like, your wonderful relative is creating a Welsh National Theatre to promote this very purpose, that your Welsh people deserve a space to tell their stories. And I think that for me was a very important shift in this Brigadoon. And I've added a lot of Scots to the piece and a lot of pride in our words can't disappear, nor our stories or our songs. And that this miracle isn't about fear or isolationism, because I never want anyone to misunderstand that it's like a nationalistic thing or a fear-based choice, that it's about our right as a people to be and remain and thrive in peace. And so I think that is really important. But additionally, something I think is a slightly different angle in my take on this is, in the original, our protagonist, Tommy Albright, is choosing between his fiancée at home, Jane, R.I.P. Jane, I cut Jane.
Oh, poor Jane.
And Fiona McLaren, this woman he meets on holiday in Scotland. And I didn't like that. I thought that was antithetical to my feminist outlook. But additionally, it wasn't very interesting that a man who's choosing between this woman and that woman isn't really in conflict. But what is interesting to me is the modern man. I should say I set our Tommy Albright and Jeff Douglas in 2026.
Oh, wow.
Because I wanted to only do one period piece.
Right.
When original audiences saw Brigadoon in 1947, they were looking at two men that looked just like them and talked just like them. They were 1947 men.
Yeah.
They are modern men. And for some reason, we've always made this decision to never change that. And it's nowhere in the original script. And so I just thought, what if we did change that? And I have to say, the modernity of Tommy and Jeff doesn't particularly change the language. The changes I've made are much more about their humanity, their psychology and stuff. But what I do think resonates is that we are living in an era where we are more connected, I put in quotes, than ever before. And yet we are going through a loneliness epidemic, and people don't feel that they exist in community anymore, and they don't feel that they're fully alive anymore. And our modern everyman, Tommy Albright, is on paper living a perfect life. He's wealthy, he's handsome, he lives in one of the greatest cities on earth in a beautiful apartment. He's got a killer job, a killer career, goes on wonderful vacations, but his life is hollow and lonely. And Fiona McLaren and the Brigadoon she represents offers him the opportunity to be fully alive, which is very confrontational, actually, when you have lived a life behind the walls you've built up. And she offers him community and true feeling, ecstatic joy and raging sorrow, connection, meaning.
Depth of feeling. Yeah, yeah.
Depth of feeling. And so what I think becomes more interesting in this version is it's not Tommy choosing between Jane and Fiona. He's choosing a real life versus an isolated, numb one. And I think all of us can relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also defy I deeply, deeply dislike the like one true love thing. Even though I completely adore my husband and will be with him till one of us dies, I also know that what we share, I feel like this is true in your marriage as well, is deeply earned and deeply worked on and deeply reevaluated. And
Yes.
So what I want to be very clear in this version too is that I don't want the story to be nobody could do this for Tommy but Fiona. I want the story to be nobody could do this for Tommy but Tommy.
Yeah.
He has to leap.
I'm going to get on a plane to LA right now. Go see.
I wish you could come. I've also changed a couple other things that are really important to me. So that in terms of the Scottishness, I addressed both the Scottishness and the femaleness in one particular character of Meg Brocky, who in the original is sort of like an operetta soubrette, sort of young, sexy milkmaid, and fun in its time, but like problematic nowadays. And I was like, we can do better. And so I have written a character that Meg Brocky is in her 50s. can be played to any age, and she runs the town pub, Brocky's Tavern. I couldn't believe there was a musical about Scotland that didn't have a pub. I couldn't believe it. I was like, huh? It's ridiculous.
Come on.
And that this pub was sort of the center of culture in Brigadoon. It was where business deals were made and people got lunch and dinner, and where wedding receptions were held and funerals were it just was this hub of life. And what happens is one of our Americans, Jeff Douglas, wanders in around lunchtime, and Meg subsequently teaches him all about Scottish culture, but also tells this foolish American why this is so important. And if you were from around here, you would know we don't just have a heavy accent. This is our language. This is who we are. And it can't disappear. And that's why I'm here to keep it all going. So she serves sort of both purposes. And it's really exciting because, you and I are both women of a certain age. And I don't know about you, Kaz, but I'm not done traveling, eating delicious foods, kissing people, having hot sex. I'm not going to be put out to pasture just because I'm over 40. And I think Meg represents that without me having to get all rah, rah, rah about it. Realistically representing.
That's who she is.
Yeah. What do you know? I'm going to write a musical, and in it, the women are going to be people.
Not ciphers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It sounds fantastic. And I just, like I say, I love that you've just gone out and got this done. And I wish you so much luck with it.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that this answer to this question is actually happening. That's what I think is brilliant,
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That's true.
So, Al, is there a musical out there that helped you make a strong choice in your life?
Fiddler.
Yeah.
I don't think any musical has had a more intense impact on me for so many reasons. It incidentally was one of the musicals I did in high school. I played Golda when I was 15.
Oh, you've already done it.
I've already done it, but
I meant to tell you earlier when you said about, once you pass the mum phase, you play the ghost.
Yeah.
In the version they just did in the UK, the year before they did Brigadoon at Regent's Park, the girl playing Seitel played, what's her name?
Seitel or Frumasera?
No, Frumasera, I think.
Yeah. I heard that was so cool.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I don't get to see anything. I just talk about stuff now.
That's okay.
But so I was like, that's pretty cool that she's the one leading the dream.
A very cool idea. Totally. Very cool. And singing about herself, really.
Yeah.
I think in a couple of ways, Fiddler had a deep impact on me. Fiddler in a lot of ways is a piece about cultural inheritance. And I think it was the musical that put my Jewishness and my cultural legacy with that geographic part of the world, particularly I would say Ukraine, front and center for the first time in my adult life. I think I started playing Huddle when I was 23.
Do you have roots there then?
I do, yeah. My dad's side of the family, all sort of on the border between Ukraine and Poland. So, it's funny, I just, something about my DNA gets activated when these stories come up, and, it's inexplicable. I'm sure it's, genetic traumatic inheritance on a lot of levels, but also joyful inheritance. And like I said, inheritance also artistically, spiritually, personally. And what moves me about the piece is that it refuses simplicity. It understands that preserving tradition and challenging tradition both emerge from love. And I think the musical gave me permission to ask very difficult questions about identity and faith and blood and family and belonging and artistic responsibility without believing that any of those questions made me disloyal to any of those parties, right?
Yeah.
And it's an extraordinarily mature piece of writing and an extraordinarily powerful thing to be inside of. And in that original company, I believe the only people that identified as Jews were myself, the great Beverly Cline, and the great Henry Goodman. What was interesting for me was I actually had a largely secular upbringing and felt, without kind of getting into it too much, my dad's parents were very difficult people and we had a very fraught relationship. And after my dad's funeral, I never heard from them again. They never spoke to me again. And they were my Jewish ancestors. And I think they kept Jewishness from me in a way that is informed by a lot of their cultural inheritance and fear-informed and Holocaust-informed influences that I will never know or understand.
That's so interesting, Al.
Right? But my mom is not Jewish, and therefore, there was always this purity test element that really felt difficult for me. But I always felt like I was on the outside of a beautiful house looking in, so desperately wanting to be inside. And something about Fiddler gave me permission to come inside. And I think I've developed a really deeply personal relationship to all of that, but including the Jewishness, not only the cultural part, but the faith-based part. And, something that feels very Euro-specific is the sort of blood part, the racial part, which we don't experience quite in the same way in America. In America, I think Jewishness is very much viewed as like an elective religious choice, which the rest of the world doesn't see it that way. I don't know, all of those things, and it feels like a great honor and a great responsibility, and it motivated me to write my book. It motivated me to have a bat mitzvah at the age of 36, and I'm not a weekly synagogue attending Jewish person, but I have a certainty of divinity that is motivated by all of that, and it began with Fiddler.
I think that's really fascinating, especially what you said, like how it made you feel sort of viscerally.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've listened to the very first episode of the podcast is with Maria Friedman, who has been a Golder recently in London. She also did a play called Ghetto.
Yes.
When she was a lot younger at the National. And I think her father and the history he has, or he had with his Jewish family, was very fraught, very difficult. And like you say, he was cut off, I think, for marrying outside of the faith. And you've said something very similar, that I think it sounds to me like there has to be quite a lot of acceptance of very extreme behaviour. And I guess probably in all our pasts, there's probably a lot of that going on. No matter what religion, if you have any or not, people lived differently, didn't they?
Yeah, of course. I think we also view all of that with so much modern privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it from our iPhones,
Right. And check your privilege. I think one of the privileges we often don't examine is the privilege of our modernity, and that we feel like we can so freely judge things we really could never possibly understand. So it's why I say the impact my grandparents had on me was negative and painful. With that said, and these two things can be true at the same time, they lived through things. If I lived 1,000 lifetimes, I could never empathically understand.
God,
and
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
therefore, I hold space for both of those truths.
Yeah. Yeah. When my parents did Fiddler on the Roof in Amdram, I was the eponymous hero on the roof with a fake fiddle.
You were?
I was.
The titular role?
The titular role, I will have you know.
I bet you were fabulous. I think we've agreed that when this is over, you owe me a huge Dropbox link filled with all of this. And I will respond.
I wish there was. I'm nearly a decade older than you. So unfortunately, it's all just old photographs, that are very badly photographed.
All I'm saying is I don't discriminate against the quality of the sharing.
Fine.
I'm just, okay?
We will do a big share.
Okay, great. And then all of you listeners can be jealous knowing it exists.
My next question, having talked about all these fabulous musicals today, what is the secret to a good musical?
I have a very clear answer.
Oh.
A great musical understands why a character must sing now. Not eventually, not because the form requires a song every scene or two, but because language has reached its limit.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's no other place to turn but music.
The best musicals understand contradiction. They allow joy and terror, comedy and grief, intimacy and spectacle, and they allow all of those to coexist in the same breath. And I guess finally, too, a great musical trusts music to carry psychological truth that dialogue cannot always safely hold. And I think that's why the form survives and endures.
I saw this great thing on Instagram this week, and it was Hugh Jackman talking about doing musicals when he was younger and saying about the craft of it and how the hard work you have to do in a musical to make language sing and stories sing. You have to attend to every detail. And I just thought that was lovely from an actor's point of view, because we absolutely know people denigrate musicals all the time and musical theatre performers because they're singers, they're dancers. I think because it's a popular art form, people think it must be easy to do because lots of people enjoy it. And I loved seeing him emphasizing how you have to take it seriously, and how difficult it is to stand on a stage and make an ABBA song sound like it's being made up right now because a character is in front of 3 men who are possibly her dads. So she's going to sing thank you to the music for them, and it's going to make sense, and it's going to tell a story. And that is really hard. It is really hard. And yet the whole world finds that,
I just want to say, for the record and on the record, I love Mamma Mia.
I love Mamma Mia.
I love it. I
It's a
love it.
great show.
By the way, did you ever see Colin Firth's actor studio interview?
No.
So James Lipton, asks a ton of serious questions like, what's your favorite sound on earth? And some people answer these with like great depth and da-da. And then one of his questions, if you can believe it, is, what do you want God to say when you die? And Colin Firth, after giving a beautiful interview, Colin Firth sits there and he goes, I think I'd like God to say, I thought you were quite good in Mamma Mia. And I'm just like, slow clap.
He doesn't need God to say that to him. I'll say that to him.
I'll say it to him too.
He just needs
We'll
to call me
say
up.
it together. We'll call him up and say it together.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We'll let him join our Dropbox if he likes. Send him some bits. So finally.
This is so fun. I can't believe we're coming to the end. Okay.
I know, we're coming to the end. You have places to be. You're a very, very important person now. You're creative. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say, before we go on to the final question, you speak so informatively and so well educatedly about the musical form, the art form that is musicals. Am I right in thinking, I'm sure I've seen this, that you are a teacher? You do teach as well.
I do teach.
On top of all your brilliant performing and writing.
I love teaching.
And so what is that? Whereabouts are you teaching and who do you teach? Who gets the benefit of your brilliance?
So I have taught long form at multiple New York universities in terms of full terms and things. In fact, two of my students are in Brigadoon, my former students, playing Harry Beaton and Charlie Dalrymple. And it's a joy to work with them as grown-ups. I also teach a weekly Monday night class on Zoom that anyone can join from any time zone if you wish to join.
Oh.
And I also teach privately. So about twice a year, I have an acting through song class, and twice a year, I have an acting class. And it's just one of the great joys of my life. It feels like giving back.
Absolutely.
It feels like nurturing the next generation and being of service to the next generation. Even with sometimes wonderful as some non-actors will join some of these classes and have their lives enhanced by the experience, and
do you find this as well, Al, when you teach that you learn as well?
Of course. I mean, I do believe Oscar Hammerstein said.
Oh, we're going to do the Sondheim thing. Oscar Hammerstein said.
I do believe Oscar Hammerstein said, by your pupils you'll be taught. Wait, have you played that role?
No. All these parts I haven't played. Stop bringing it up, Al. I'm getting embarrassed.
All I'm saying is you'd be great.
That is on my list because you know why? Do you know why I'd be great? Do you know why I'd be great at Anna in The King and I? Because I'm Welsh.
Yes, I know.
She's Welsh.
She's Welsh. Anna Leigh Owens.
She is a Welsh.
That last name?
Harrison Emerson. Anna Leon Owens, which is a kind of English bastardization of Llewellyn, weirdly enough, apparently.
Llewellyn.
That might be urban myth, but that's what I've heard. But yeah, she has that fantastic lyric where she says, I am from a civilized land called Wales. So come on, what would I give to say that line? Bring it on, people.
Yeah. Okay, I'm manifesting.
Call me, people, and give me this job. Thank you.
We said we were manifesting, so
yes.
Hello.
It's out there now.
If you're listening.
It's out there now.
Universe. Wait, what was the question?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I haven't even told you the question. What musical feeds your soul? If you're having a day where you're feeling a bit like, unmotivated, and you need to reach for something to give you a bit of a buzz, to pick you up, to make you feel better about the world, where'd you go?
I think my answer is going to be surprising.
Oh.
Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, yes.
First of all, that ain't no Disney princess story, okay? That is a book musical. It is so brilliantly written. The new songs that are added to the musical are incredible. And I just think, I don't know, I guess as a bookish girl, I have Belle affinities. I just think that the story of, yes, there's a beauty and yes, there's a beast, but at the core of it is what I think is at the center of all true loves, which is two misunderstood and underestimated people coming together and together being more than the sum of their parts. That the beast returns to his original form because she's truly seen him and changed him. And that she finally finds acceptance and safety in his gaze. There's something about the devotion of that household and his staff to him in the enchantment.
The humanity of them, the fact that they have tried so hard to hold on to their humanity.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think it's a piece that actually genuinely addresses toxic masculinity in a very real way and makes it palatable for children to understand, to look out for. That Gaston's entitlement is not acceptable, and he pays the ultimate price for it. I think all of it is important, and I will pop it on and I will belt it out. I will twirl.
Yeah.
I'll do it all.
You get your ballet shoes on.
I'll get my ballet shoes on. And then I will say, just like, I do have a playlist called Musical Theater Bops. And
Okay.
Bops is in all caps, of course.
Give us some of those.
Some of them are very niche. Maybe My Baby Loves Me from Grand Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Who I'd Be from Shrek.
Fabulous.
The Farmer and the Cowman Should Be Friends from Oklahoma. The Lees of Old Virginia from 1776. Run, Freedom, Run from Urinetown. I mean, the bops.
Great tunes.
And
yes.
I will put on the bops. Maybe I'll have to send you the playlist. We'll add it to the Dropbox.
That would be welcomed. All of this is welcomed.
I love musicals. No apology.
That's basically what we need when we're having our autopsy. That will also be tattooed on us.
Thank goodness for you, Caroline Sheen, and for and what you're doing. Like,
thank goodness for you, Al Silber. And I'm so grateful to you for being creative so I can get you on this pod.
Oh, I'm just so honored.
I love nattering away to people who are the same. You know?
Yeah, it's a wonderful club to be in. And, you know, I think if the theater industry, and not just the art form, but the business, if we've learned anything post-COVID, I think we might be inextinguishable.
AI can't touch us.
Exactly. And I think also, like I've often said, we had our essential workers during COVID and we could not have literally survived. Our cells could not have survived without them. But I wonder if artists are the essential workers of this moment that are helping us make meaning of everything that's happened. And we are essential. It's part of survival. It's that our survival has meant something.
That was the thing I felt most about COVID, was absolutely yes to the key workers and the incredible work they did. One of the girls I'm working with at the minute, her mum was one of the people who worked on the vaccine, which blows my mind. You know, that kind of, I bow down to that kind of brilliance.
That's like Marie Curie's level of
incredible. But also that whole thing of realizing that we needed stories to get ourselves through it. That was a big realization that I don't think many people had made, because we had always been so used to having the TV on and going to the cinema or going to the theatre. And I think it made us possibly more cherished for a little while. Hopefully it is still there somewhere. But
I think it is. I believe.
I cherish you, Al Silber. Thank you so much.
I cherish you, Caroline Sheen,
for joining us today.
What an honor.
Huge love and luck for Brigadoon. Tell us where it is and what are the hopes for it?
It starts tomorrow night. First previews tomorrow night, which is the 13th of May, running till the 14th of June in Pasadena, California, in Los Angeles. And this is the current run, but who knows beyond? We are all hopeful that we will see it again.
I really hope we do, because it deserves to be seen. It's a great show, and I think you can only make it even greater. So thank you, Al. It's been an absolute
treat. So much love.
Best of luck to you, darling lady. Mwah.
Mwah.
Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life, and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to Talk Musicals to Me.